People talk about the pain of hard work, but have you ever felt the pain of regret? The pain of looking back and realizing you wasted years waiting for courage, waiting for motivation, waiting for a sign. Regret is a heavy burden, and the only way to avoid it is to act. Not when it's comfortable, not when it's easy, but now. Here's the truth. Your mind will always look for the easy way out. It will whisper, "Not today." It will convince you you have time. But time is the greatest deceiver. You don't lose success in a single moment. You lose it in 1,000 small hesitations, in every excuse, in every delay. Wealth is not just built with knowledge, talent, or even opportunity. It is built with action. The mind that hesitates is the mind that stays broke. The man who waits for motivation is the man who watches life pass him by. Because motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes. But discipline, the ability to force yourself into action, even when you don't feel like it, that is what separates the wealthy from the struggling. I remember when I first started in business, I didn't feel ready. I didn't have all the answers. I wasn't sure if I'd succeed. But you know what I did? I started anyway. I made the calls. I knocked on the doors. I put in the work. And that's when I learned a key lesson. Discipline will take you where motivation never will. It's easy to get excited when you hear a great idea. Maybe you listen to a speaker, read a book, or watch something that lights a fire inside you. And for a moment you think, yes, I'm going to do it. But then a few hours go by, maybe a day, and that excitement fades. That's the danger of motivation. It's temporary. If you build your future on temporary feelings, you'll never get anywhere. Think about the farmer. The farmer doesn't wake up and ask, "Do I feel like planting today?" No, he plants the seeds because it's planting season. He does the work because he knows if he waits until he feels like it, he'll miss the harvest. The same goes for wealth and success. If you wait until you feel ready, you'll look back years from now and realize the harvest never came because you never planted the seeds. Some people say, "I'll start next Monday," or "I'll wait until the new year," or "Let me just get through this one thing first," and on it goes. Excuses disguised as preparation. Let me tell you, opportunity doesn't wait for you to feel ready. It moves on. And those who hesitate get left behind. I once met a man who told me, "I've been thinking about starting a business for the last 5 years. 5 years. And I said, "What's stopping you?" He said, "I'm waiting for the right time." I told him the right time was 5 years ago. The second best time is right now. Here's the secret. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. You don't feel like working out, but once you start, you feel energized. You don't feel like making that phone call, but once you do, you get into the rhythm. You don't feel like writing that plan, but once you begin, the ideas start flowing. And you know what else happens? Confidence. Confidence doesn't come from waiting until you feel ready. It comes from doing. The more you take action, the more capable you become. The more capable you become, the more confident you feel. I remember when I first started speaking in front of people. I was nervous. I wasn't sure if I was good enough, but I didn't wait until I felt ready. I did it afraid, and the more I did it, the more I improved. The same goes for anything in life. If you wait for confidence before you take action, you'll be stuck forever. Confidence follows action. So here's what I want you to do. Think about something you've been putting off, something you've been telling yourself you'll do one day. And then ask yourself, why not today? Because the truth is, if you don't start today, you probably won't start tomorrow. And if you don't start tomorrow, next week will look just like this one. Success belongs to those who move, those who act, those who understand that waiting to feel ready is the greatest mistake you can make. So stop waiting, start doing, and watch what happens when you take control of your own future. You know, one of the biggest battles you'll ever face isn't against the economy, your competition, or even your circumstances. The real battle happens in your own mind. It's the resistance, the self-doubt, the fear, the hesitation that keeps you from taking action. And if you don't learn to break through it, It will stop you from achieving the wealth, success, and freedom you want. I've seen it happen over and over again. People with incredible potential, great ideas, big dreams, but they never take the steps to make them real. And when you ask them why, they'll say things like, "I'm not sure if I'm ready," or "What if I fail?" or "What if people don't support me?" And you know what that is? That's resistance talking. That's the mind putting up roadblocks. When I was just starting out, I had the same doubt. I remember thinking, who am I to speak on success? Who would listen to me? But then I realized something. The only way to get past fear is to move through it. You don't wait for fear to disappear before you take action. You act in spite of it. Think about a child learning to walk. They don't sit on the floor waiting until they're sure they won't fall. No, they get up. They stumble. They try again. And that's how they learn. But somewhere along the way, as adults, we start thinking we need to have it all figured out before we begin. And that thinking keeps people stuck. I once met a man who told me, "I've always wanted to start a business, but I don't know if I'll be successful." I asked him, "Have you tried?" He said, "No." So I told him, "You've already failed, because doing nothing is the surest way to get nothing." You don't succeed by thinking about it. You succeed by doing it. The truth is, success isn't about eliminating fear. It's about acting despite it. The wealthy, the successful, the top performers, they don't feel any less fear than you do. The difference is they push past it. They don't let resistance dictate their future. I remember when I had my first big opportunity to speak in front of an audience. My hands were shaking, my heart was pounding, and for a moment I thought, maybe I'm not ready. But I had a choice. Give in to resistance or step forward. And I stepped forward. That decision changed my life. Some people spend years waiting for the fear to go away before they take action. But let me tell you, it doesn't go away on its own. Courage is built by stepping into fear, not avoiding it. The more you do it, the stronger you become. Think about the first time you tried something new. Maybe it was learning a skill, making an investment, or starting a business. It felt uncertain, maybe even uncomfortable. But as you kept going, it got easier. Why? Because action kills doubt. Every time you take a step forward, resistance loses its grip. I knew a man who spent years afraid to make a career move. He stayed where he was, even though he wasn't happy, because he feared the unknown. And one day his company let him go. Suddenly the thing he was afraid of happened anyway, but now he had no choice but to act. And when he did, he realized something. He had been capable all along. He just let fear keep him trapped. Don't wait for life to force you to take action. Do it now. The time will never be perfect. The conditions will never be just right. But the moment you push past the doubt, you take back control. So ask yourself, what's holding me back? And then decide, will you let fear win? Or will you step forward anyway? Because everything you want, wealth, success, freedom, it's all on the other side of resistance. It's easy to make excuses. It's easy to blame circumstances, the economy, your background, or the people around you. But let me tell you something. Excuses will never make you rich. Excuses will never lead to success. The only thing they do is keep you stuck right where you are. I've heard them all. I don't have the time. I don't have the right connections. I'm not lucky enough. And you know what? That kind of thinking will keep you broke. Because every minute you spend making an excuse is a minute you could have spent working on your future. When I was young, I had my own list of excuses. I grew up in a small town. My family wasn't wealthy. I didn't have a fancy education. And for a while, I let those things hold me back. But then I realized something. Success isn't about what you don't have. It's about what you do with what you've got. I remember meeting a man who always said, if only I had more money, I could invest. But the truth was, he didn't have a money problem. He had a mindset problem. Because if you give a man with an excuse $1 million, he'll find a way to lose it. And if you take $1 million from a man with the right mindset, he'll find a way to make it back. Excuses are just a way to avoid responsibility. And the moment you stop making them, everything changes. I once knew a young man who told me he wanted to start a business, but he was waiting for the right time. So I asked him, when is the right time? He didn't have an answer, because there is no perfect time. The right time is when you decide to start. Think about this. Imagine two people both want to change their lives. One says, I'll start when things get easier. The other says, I'll start now and figure it out along the way. Who do you think succeeds? The people who make things happen are the ones who refuse to wait for perfect conditions, because perfect conditions don't exist. If you wait for everything to be just right, you'll be waiting forever. I knew a man who used to say, I'll start when I have more time. But time isn't something you find, it's something you make. He had the same 24 hours as everyone else, but instead of using them wisely, he used them to justify inaction. Now, here's the key. If you want to succeed, you have to replace excuses with an unstoppable work ethic. You have to decide that no matter what obstacles come your way, you're going to find a way through them. I remember when I was first learning about business, I wasn't the smartest guy in the room, and I wasn't the most experienced, but I made up for it by working harder than anyone else. While others were making excuses, I was studying. While they were sleeping in, I was taking action. Because here's the truth. The world doesn't care about your excuses. It rewards your results. Think about the people you admire, the ones who built wealth, who created success, who changed their lives. Do you think they had no obstacles, no setbacks, no failures? Of course they did. But they refused to let those things stop them. Now let's be honest. Hard work isn't easy. It requires discipline. It requires sacrifice. But you have to ask yourself, is your dream worth it? Because if it is, then no excuse is big enough to stop you. You have two choices. You can either make excuses or you can make progress, but you can't do both. So which one will you choose? Discipline is the bridge between goals and achievement. It's the difference between wishing for success and actually making it happen. A lot of people talk about success, but very few people are willing to do the work required to get there. Because let's be honest, discipline isn't always easy. It means doing what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it. And that's where most people get stuck. They wait until they feel like it. They wait for motivation. They wait for inspiration. But let me tell you something. If you only take action when you feel like it, you'll never build the life you want. I remember when I was just starting out, there were days I didn't feel like reading. I didn't feel like working late. I didn't feel like making that extra effort. But then I realized something. Successful people don't wait for feelings. They act despite them. I once knew a man who said, I just don't have the motivation to get started. So I asked him, what if your paycheck was tied to your effort? Would you find the motivation then? Of course, he said yes. Because suddenly there was a consequence for inaction. And that's the key. You have to stop treating discipline as an option. If you treat it as optional, you'll always find a way to avoid it. Imagine two people decide to get in shape. One says, I'll go to the gym when I feel like it. The other says, I'll go to the gym every day, no matter what. Who do you think gets results? Success works the same way. It's not about feelings, it's about habits. It's about showing up and doing the work, even when it's inconvenient. I knew a young man who wanted to build wealth, but every time I saw him, he had a new excuse. I don't have the energy after work. I don't have the time. I'll start next month. But next month turned into next year. And next year turned into never. Because here's the truth. Discipline is developed through action, not excuses. The more you push yourself to take action, the easier it gets. The first time you wake up early, it's hard. The first time you push yourself to work late, it's uncomfortable. But over time, it becomes second nature. I remember when I decided to change my life. At first, it was a struggle. I had to force myself to stick to my commitments. But after a while, discipline became a part of me. It stopped being something I had to think about. It just became the way I lived. And that's the goal. You want to get to a point where discipline isn't something you have to force. It's just who you are. Because here's what I know. If you don't have discipline, you don't have freedom. Without discipline, You're a slave to your emotions. You're controlled by distractions, by procrastination, by whatever feels easy in the moment. But when you develop discipline, you take control of your future. You no longer wait for the perfect time. You no longer let your feelings dictate your actions. You do what needs to be done, no matter what. And when you do that, success becomes inevitable. If there's one thing more expensive than taking action, it's not taking action. The cost of inaction is one of the greatest thieves of success. It doesn't seem like much at first. You put something off for a day, then a week, then a year. But before you know it, years have gone by, and you're still standing in the same place. No progress, no growth, just regret. I once met a man who told me, I always wanted to start my own business, but I never got around to it. He was in his 60s. He had spent his whole life working for someone else, waiting for the perfect time. But the perfect time never came. Now he was left with only one thing: regret. Because here's the truth. Life doesn't wait for you to be ready. The opportunity you ignore today might not be there tomorrow. And every day you delay, you pay a price. Not in money, but in lost potential. Imagine two people have the same dream of building wealth. One starts today, even if they don't feel ready. They take small steps, but they keep moving. The other waits, telling themselves, I'll start when the timing is better. A year later, the first person has gained knowledge, skills, and momentum. The second person, still waiting. Now let's fast forward 5 years. The first person has built something. Maybe not perfect, but it's growing. The second person finally decides to start, but now they're 5 years behind. That's the cost of inaction. It doesn't just hold you in place. It pushes you backwards. While you wait, the world moves forward. And if you wait long enough, the opportunities you once had will be gone. I knew a man who wanted to invest, but he kept saying, I need to learn more before I start. 5 years later, he was still learning, still hesitating. Meanwhile, others who started with less knowledge were now ahead. Why? Because they took action while he made excuses. Now, I'm not saying you should act recklessly, but I am saying that waiting for the perfect moment is a trap. The perfect moment doesn't exist. People think the biggest risk is making a mistake, but the biggest risk is doing nothing, because when you do nothing, life makes the decision for you. Think about your health. If you don't take care of it now, you'll pay the price later. Think about your finances. If you don't start managing your money now, you'll struggle later. Think about your relationships. If you don't invest in them now, you'll feel the loneliness later. Inaction comes with a price, and that price is regret. And regret is the worst pain of all, because unlike failure, you can't fix regret. You can't go back in time and change your choices. You can't get back the years you lost. I once met an old man who said, if I could go back, I'd do things differently. But here's the problem. You can't go back. You only get one shot at this life. And every day you waste is a day you never get back. So what's the answer? It's simple. Start now. Start where you are with what you have. Don't wait for everything to be perfect. Don't wait until you feel ready. Just take the first step. Because once you start, you create momentum, and momentum is the key to success. And if you ever feel like putting something off, just ask yourself, what will this cost me if I don't do it? Because I promise you, the cost of inaction is always greater than the cost of taking a risk. So don't wait. Don't delay. Start now, because if you don't, one day you'll look back and wish you had. Success isn't built in a day. It's built in the small, consistent actions you take every single day. The problem is, most people underestimate the power of small improvements. They think success comes from big, dramatic changes, but that's not how it works. Success isn't a single event. It's a process. I once heard someone say, I want to be wealthy, but I don't know where to start. I told them, start by saving just 1% more of your income. Just 1%. Then next month, increase it by another 1%. They looked at me like it was too simple. But that's the secret. Small steps taken consistently create massive results over time. Most people get discouraged because they don't see instant results. They go to the gym for a week and don't see a difference. They start reading, but their life doesn't change overnight. They make a small investment and don't become rich in a month. So they quit. And that's the biggest mistake of all. Imagine two people start learning about wealth. One commits to reading 10 pages of a book every day. The other doesn't read at all. Now, after one day, there's no difference. After a week, still no difference. But after a year, the first person has read 3,650 pages. That's about 10 books on success, mindset, and wealth. And the second person, still stuck in the same place. That's the power of small, daily actions. I knew a man who wanted to change his life. He was struggling financially and he felt stuck. But instead of trying to change everything overnight, he made one simple commitment. He would spend 30 minutes every day learning about money. That's all. No big leaps, no drastic changes, just 30 minutes a day. A year later, he had a whole new understanding of wealth. He started applying what he learned. He made smarter financial decisions. He started investing, he grew his income, and 5 years later, he was financially free. Now, if he had tried to fix everything in one big move, he would have failed. But because he focused on small daily improvements, he changed his life. The key is consistency. Small actions done daily create habits, and habits shape your future. I once told a young man, if you improve by just 1% every day, where do you think you'll be in a year? He thought about it and said, I guess I'd be 365% better. I said, that's right, but in reality, it's even more than that, because growth compounds. 1% today builds on yesterday's 1%, and over time, that small improvement turns into something massive. Think about saving money. If you save a little every day, at first it doesn't seem like much, but as time goes on, that money grows. And then something incredible happens. Compounding kicks in. The money you save starts making money, and that money makes even more money. That's how people become wealthy, not overnight, but by consistently taking small actions. Success works the same way. It's not about making one giant leap. It's about making small improvements every single day and letting them compound over time. Most people get stuck because they focus too much on how far they have to go instead of what they can do today. They look at the big picture and feel overwhelmed. But the secret is to break it down. Focus on what you can do right now, not tomorrow, not next week, today. If you want to be wealthy, start today. Read one page of a book. Save $1 extra. Make one better decision, just one. Then do it again tomorrow and the next day. Because here's the truth. Success isn't built in a day, but it is built daily. Your future is in your hands. No one is going to come along and build it for you. If you want a better life, if you want financial success, if you want freedom, you have to take control. And that starts with training your mind to take action. Not someday, not when it's convenient, right now. Too many people wait. They wait for motivation. They wait for the right time. They wait until they feel ready. But here's the truth. If you keep waiting, you'll wait forever. Because life doesn't hand out perfect moments. The people who succeed are the ones who train themselves to act, no matter how they feel. There was a man who kept saying, one day I'll start my business. Every time someone asked him about it, he had a new excuse. I'm too busy. The economy's bad. I need to learn more first. And year after year, nothing changed. Meanwhile, another man had the same dream. But instead of waiting, he started small. He didn't know everything. But he took the first step. And then another. And another. 5 years later, he had built a successful business. The other man, still waiting for the perfect moment. The difference wasn't talent. It wasn't intelligence. It was action. One took control of his future. The other let time pass him by. If you want to win, you have to train your mind to take action. That means pushing yourself, even when you don't feel like it. It means deciding that your future is too important to be left to chance. If you don't design your own life plan, chances are you'll fall into someone else's plan. And guess what they have planned for you? Not much. That's the hard truth. If you don't take control, someone else will. If you don't decide where you're going, life will decide for you, and you may not like where you end up. Imagine someone who wants to get in shape but never starts exercising. They read about it, they watch videos, they plan, but they never take action. Do they ever get in shape? No, because knowledge without action is useless. The same is true for wealth. If you want financial success, you have to take action. Learn, yes, but apply what you learn. The problem is most people don't train themselves to act. They get stuck in thinking mode, planning mode, doubt mode. But action is a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. There was a young man who wanted to become a speaker, but he was afraid. He said, "What if I fail? What if people don't like what I have to say?" The right question is, what if you never try? He took that advice and started small. He gave a talk to a few friends, then a small group, then a bigger one. And every time he got better. Today he speaks in front of thousands. Why? Because he didn't wait until he felt ready. He trained himself to act. You have to do the same. Stop waiting for everything to be perfect. Stop waiting until you have all the answers. Take the first step and the path will reveal itself. Success is built on action. The sooner you start, the sooner you'll see results. And if you train your mind to act now, not later, you'll be amazed at how far you can go.